And the US President Barack Obama is pushing for an overhaul of the nation's immigration laws, taking his pitch to the US-Mexican border. Mr. Obama says increased border security should be accompanied by a pathway to citizenship for the millions of illegal immigrants in the US. Well, for more on this, let's speak with Professor Christopher Parker. He's a professor of social justice and political science at the University of Washington. Now, a key area of research for Professor Parker is how race and national identity affect political attitudes and behaviour. He's currently visiting the US Study Centre at the University of Sydney, and he joins me right now in the studio. Professor, thanks so much for your time this evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Could you give us a sense, first of all, just how big is immigration reform as an issue in the US, and how much is it shaping public opinion and therefore political behaviour?
So immigration reform is key, not only for moral reasons, but for political reasons as well. When we think about the political reasons, with the Latino population in the last 10 years has grown at about 43%, and as is the Latino electorate. And so they're becoming an increasing voice in American politics right now.
How do you think the Obama administration has handled this issue, this incredibly complex issue? Because to quote the New York Times, the US immigration system is a shambles.
I mean, I think given what his constraints are, I mean, I think he's done, my personal opinion is he's done a pretty good job. I mean, let's think about this. This guy is the first African-American president, right? So he's shackled, pun intended, with constraints that his predecessors have never been shackled or encumbered by. So I think under the circumstances, he's really trying to, I think he's trying to time this just right, because he can't move too soon on this, because if he moves too soon on this, it's going to affect his chances for winning in 2012. Now, there was a particular piece of legislation recently called the DREAM Act that was shut down recently. It passed the House of Representatives prior to this last election cycle, right? But it wasn't able to get through the Senate. And what the DREAM Act is, it allows, it's a path to citizenship for kids who were brought here illegally with their parents. And if they've either served in the military or in school, it allows them a path to citizenship. And that was shut down in the Senate recently. It passed the House, but that was prior to this last election cycle. It's not likely it's going to happen anytime soon because of the Republican sweep in the House this time.
From your position and your perspective, how imperative is it that something like that does come into reality, that there is an overhaul for political, social and economic reasons for the US?
Well, I mean, so let's start with the political reasons. So, I mean, with the electorate becoming more and more Latino, then it's incumbent on both parties, you know, to try to do the right thing. Once again, if they're not doing it for moral reasons, just for political expediency, right? Because the Latino population is growing so rapidly. And so when we think about can I just tell one quick aside? One quick aside is I didn't realize how far the Mexican border was up, you know, prior to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, right? What happened was in 1848, after the Mexican-United States War, that the United States essentially, they captured Texas, California. The border was all the way up to Oregon. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, in a sense that if you really look at it, it's almost like, you know, with the rapid rise in Latino immigration, you know, it seems like it's almost poetic justice, right? Something has to be done, right? And when we think about the rates at which the Latino population is growing, and when you have African Americans returning to the South the ways in the waves in which we're returning to the South, then Republicans are really left with very few options right now. They have to do something, right? And one of the ways they can do something is allowing a path to citizenship for these waves of Latinos that are coming to the United States. And so both parties, it's incumbent on them for their political survival to do something, you know, to rectify this situation.
Okay, let's zoom in on something that you've spent a lot of time studying and researching and writing about, the Tea Party.
Yes.
Just how much influence are they having in shaping policies and issues such as this?
Well, right now, the Tea Party, that is an acronym for taxed enough already. They're pulling the Republican Party further and further to the right, right? And what that's doing is preventing more responsible Republican leadership for crafting policies and coming together with Democrats to get things done in Congress, right? And so it's causing more party polarization in the United States. It was already polarized when Bush was in office. It's increasingly polarized right now.
Now, a recent survey done by your university, and this survey was led by yourself, found that more than 70% of Tea Party members believe that Obama is destroying the country. 76% want to see his policies fail.
Yes.
Now, keeping in mind those figures there, how much do you think the events of the past week surrounding the death of Osama bin Laden will change and affect those figures that you found and the attitudes behind them?
Well, in my humble opinion, for hardcore Tea Party supporters and members, it's not going to change their views at all, right? For people who are in the middle, people who are independent, or people who are more responsible conservatives and moderates, they're going to move, if they're on the fence, they're going to move off the fence in favor of the president, right? But for those people who are hardcore Tea Party supporters, some people would argue that, you know, these are conspiracy theorists, right? And that with conspiracy theorists and people who are paranoid, the more you challenge their beliefs, the more they're going to hold tight to them, right? So it's not going to move those people at all. The people who are on the fence, it's going to move them. It's going to move them a little bit. Now, when we think about what happened with the birth certificate, so there at one point there were 20% of the American population who did not believe Barack Obama was born in the United States. When he produced the long-form birth certificate, that halved it to only about 10%, right? So it has caused some movement among people who are on the fence, but the people who are hardcore Tea Party supporters and members, they're not going to move at all.
Conversely, Christopher Parker, we just used that term there from your study that 70% believe Obama's destroying the country. Conversely, how much damage is the Tea Party doing to the Republican Party and its chances of victory in the 2012 presidential election?
Well, in the short term, it brought tremendous energy to the Republican Party and allowing them to do as well as they did in the last election cycle. But coming up for 2012, I think the Tea Party is really going to do a lot of damage to the Republican Party. As a matter of fact, I think the Tea Party is the best thing that happened to President Obama because it makes him seem like, and he is, you know, the adult in the room, right? Now you have, you know, the Speaker Boehner, and you see the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. You can see them trying to have a balancing act right now. You know, they understand these guys are really cagey politicians, and they know the further right they go, the more that's going to hurt their chances in the 2012 election cycle. And so what they're trying to do, they already backed off on Medicare, right? They were trying to privatize Medicare for folks who are going to become seniors in the coming years, right? They've already backed off of that, right? Because that is an untenable proposition, and they won't even discuss Social Security, you know, because that's the third rail. You touch that, and you go poof. Right? So I think in the long term, it's really going to hurt them in the 2012 election cycle. But once again, I want to stress, I think the Tea Party is the best thing that happened to Barack Obama in the last couple of years.
So if Obama is the adult in the room, the Tea Party is the elephant in the room, who do you think is going to be the Republican candidate in the presidential election?
You know, that's a really hard one to call. I mean, people have been talking about Chris Christie, the current governor of New Jersey. He's hesitated to throw his hat in the ring. People had discussed General David Petraeus, but he's been taken off the table because now he's slated to head the CIA. Donald Trump, he's a joke. Let's just shuffle him off stage. He's a complete joke. I can't really think of anyone else that's really credible, right? Mitt Romney is a possibility, right? But it's really hard to say what's going to happen to him. All right, he's got the elephant in the room as it pertains to Mitt Romney is that he's a Mormon, right? And you got some of these people who are just not ready to support someone who is not, you know, a Christian, Baptist, more mainline Christian, right? So a Mormon, some people are just not going to be willing to vote for him.
We're in for an interesting 18 months, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Professor Christopher Parker from the University of Washington, visiting Sydney at the moment, the Uni of Sydney at the US Studies Centre. So good to have you here tonight. Thanks for your company.
Thank you very much.